And there we are. Welcome everybody to Exit to Portcast episode 2. Today is the first time it's going to be only me and Grumbles the Dwarf. Mr. Grumpy Beard sadly didn't find time to join us every single time, and I can fully understand. He's worried both about his little one and streaming and everything. But what we all agreed on was very simple, that we would all leave him a seat open for whenever he's able to join us. Pro streamers right here. First time doing podcasts, I'd say. So this is
Which
weird.
brings us to our first topic for today. What the hell are these two doing on Twitch?
Well, it kind of does bring us to the first topic of the day, because the first topic of the day was us talking about episode 1. And I've written down the expectations and first impressions. And I have to say, I am blown away. I haven't seen any numbers from Spotify and the other platforms, but I do know that we have over 25 downloads on Buzzsprout alone, which is where we have it, and I'm not sure they get any numbers from where is it from Spotify as such.
Okay.
But yeah, like the amount of people asking for when's the next episode, when are we going to do more, it really does help perpetuate what we want to do here and keep us going. And I know, like from us talking, we have been wanting to do this so many times more, and been really trying to push for when can we have another episode. So yeah, it's what are your thoughts? What do you think?
It's the same for me. It's like, this is very nerve-wracking for me. Like it's unusual, different, like new territory. But it's kind of that mixture of not wanting to mess it up, but also being really excited about the format and the possibility. And for me, what really sealed it the most was just a bunch of people either in direct messages or in streams and things, and not just the wows, but like the variety stuff as well, just coming back saying, hey, when's the next one? When are you guys gonna do that? It was really cool. I really like this and that. And even there was one the other day, I forget who it was. Surprised the dwarf forget something. But somebody was like, now when I'm like traveling or whatever in the car or something, I can just stick the podcast on and while away the time or whatever, and like really enjoying that. And that's when it starts to like hit home for me of like just that kind of anytime, anywhere kind of accessibility, and then we can put maybe a few smiles on some faces whenever and wherever, rather than only in air quotes when we're on live, and that's just really a nice feeling.
Yeah, like the thing you say about being live is fun, but one of the things about being live, and which is why I kind of want to do these while we're not really streaming, is that we can touch on subject, we can sit down and talk about things and prepare something, and then we can edit it if we don't get the narrative the way we want it to. Because one of the things that kind of get to me while I'm live is that I have to self-censor. I have to self-censor and be very just, okay, now I just need to be careful how I broach the subject, how I talk about things, and so on. And I don't really want to do that, I want to just be able to talk freely about something. But if you do that on Twitch, then the next week you might be canceled because you don't know who's listening or what way it gets picked up. But
how it was taken more. Yeah.
In a podcast, you are able to edit yourself a bit more. But we're doing it live again, so there's that. But there's the other part of it, like we've already talked about, the ability to have a bit of a conversation with the community directly as we do it, and be able to ask questions and talk and get to know what are the inputs from the community directly towards the end, or whenever we have a subject that's going on. And that is, after all, why we made this podcast. We made this to have more of a conversation and have more of an interaction with people in a different way, because there's a lot of things we can't really touch on while we're streaming, and there's a lot of subjects that are going to be hard to deal with, because suddenly we have to yell for incoming torpedoes or something, or not be able to communicate because it'll stop the conversation if we do, and nobody wants to do that. So yeah, being able to sit down with this.
Here's one other carefully constructed and well thought through torpedoes.
Yeah, exactly. And then the matter is gone. It's just, nope. What was I talking about? I have no idea. But like people said, the ability to just put this on and let hours drift by in the background as you kind of listen to a conversation that's going on, it's oddly relaxing. I don't know. What kind of podcast do you follow?
So I listen to Smartest Man in the World by Greg
that's
Proops,
a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
I really enjoy that because he's hitting all sorts of knowledge and poetry, and obviously there's good doses of comedy in there too. And just obviously the irony of the name, but he's a very quick-witted and quick-minded individual. So I like that, and it's that's very enjoyable. I listen to some D&D ones, mainly more old school stuff, like original series of there's a set called Dungeon Delve by Wizards of the Coast, which recaps all of the Acquisitions Inc. stuff from the earlier days. I kind of fell a little bit out of love with that after a while in the more modern era. It just didn't really click for me with some of the new personalities and the character and where they sort of took the story, but the OG stuff was kind of hilarious. I like that because it's also being relative latecomer to D&D and role playing in general, maybe 4 or 5 years or something. It's kind of fun to go through the experience of others that kind of didn't know what the hell they were doing, and that gives me a certain amount of nostalgia on my end too. So what else have I got? I've got trying a few of the table story ones from the Table Story channel.
Oh yeah,
both Twitch and YouTube's. So things like Gone, and oh god, what was the? Nope, the names escape me. It'll come back to me randomly in about 10 minutes time. Nocturne, that was it. Nocturne. So I enjoyed those shows, and it's nice to be able to. It just kind of depends on the mood and the time and everything. Often it's a rocking myself to sleep kind of situation. So I don't want too many things where people are screaming in my ears, but
So you're saying people yelling and screaming about incoming artillery and so on is not your way of going to sleep?
Not always, no. Why is your video frozen for me again? Damn
it! I think you keep touching something that puts me out of the call or something. I don't know, because I've not touched anything here.
Yeah, it does. There's like a delay.
You're a delay. Oh,
no,
I'm frozen again.
You're frozen again.
Yeah, like you clicked something. I heard you click, and then it froze. Pro streamers.
There we go. That's working again now. So it's weird. It seems in Discord I just have to go and click the video again, and it livens up. Like I'm seeing it live. It's not holding for me. It's working, but yeah, newfangled tech. Stop clicking. How can you hear me clicking? By the way, my mic shouldn't be picking that up.
No, it clearly is.
That's weird. That's weird. Why is so? Discord's made everything uber sensitive.
I don't know.
Oh no! I hope you didn't hear that.
But yeah, speaking of wide variety of both podcasts and what that does. I think this is a good transition into our second subject, because we could probably go on for hours just about the episode 1 and how we feel about that. But if we get stuck too long on a subject, I think that's gonna be bad. But our second subject of the day is something that I do believe our podcaster is kind of touching on already. Is the wide variety of Warship streamers and Warship content out there now. Because just as we launched ours, there is another podcast out there too. I don't know if you've been able to catch them. It's Killer Bin, Painzor, and Statsbloke.
Oh, all right. I already don't trust them.
They launched their podcast at the same time as ours, but the idea of that and the idea of how people give out wargaming content or Warships content is something that I really enjoy, and it got me thinking of all the different types of streamers out there. And all the different types of streamers that I enjoy watching for different reasons. And that's our next subject here, because there are, like, I know we both have a massive amount of respect for TC Freer. TC Freer is maybe like one of the people that I always come to, and I hang out in this channel. I don't always necessarily speak, but I hang out in there because I know that when I'm there, it's going to be a feel-good time. It's going to be a chilled-out time with somebody who's just sitting down, playing the game, and enjoying it. Like, I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I've seen TC be super salty and angry with the game. Like, yeah, we all get a bit with it, but nothing like, throwing a keyboard across the room and then going on.
Of course, what we can't see is if the camera panned to the left, you'd see like about 50 broken keyboards in the corner. He just does that between streams. No, just kidding. No, you're right. And I feel the same way. I like going there because the first thing that TC does is he makes you incredibly welcome.
Yeah.
And it's so sincere. He takes the time. He's got a great recollection. Speaking of someone whose memory isn't all that good, he's got a great recollection for people. Like, somebody hasn't been in the channel for like 4 months or something, and they just turn up and go, "Hi, TC, how you doing?" And he'll be like, "Oh, dude, so and so," and then he'll be like, "Oh, how are you doing? And how did that work out with that new, I don't know, spork business you started 6 months ago?" And then they're like, "Oh, sorry, I haven't been around in the chat." It's like, "Don't worry about it." And it's like, he remembers, those little details. I don't know, how that, it marvels me every time. But the key thing is the sentiment of, like family or whatever. Come on in, be welcome, tell us a little bit about yourself, that kind of thing. But in no kind of intrusive way. And I like that. And you're right about the game itself. It's TC has an incredible, I don't know what it is, level of patience is maybe one way of putting it. But he just he kind of just soaks these things up and then processes them, and he's like, okay. And it's not to say that he isn't like wound up by some things, but you'll talk, like we talk on the Bob's TS or something, or have DMs or something, there'll be things that frustrate him, but he's just got this way of processing it, and he divides it up between, this is what I'm going to redirect back to wargaming via the CC channels, and this is how myself and the streamer is going to have fun. And I do admire that. I think that's a very, very good quality.
It is impressive. And I remember one of the first times me and Grumpy kind of started hanging out there and raiding him. That's when we kind of realized that, you know what? We want to do things the way he does it. We want to have fun. We don't want to be the guys try-harding or getting frustrated with the game every single time and yelling at our teammates and so on. We just want to sit down and have fun. And it became a changing point for me in how I enjoy the game and how I view the game because of TC. And I dare say, he has probably changed the game for so many people. It's not just for me. It's so many others. I feel, especially with like you see how many hang out there, and you know that they're all hanging out there because they enjoy the atmosphere. Because TZ, much like me and you and Grumpy, has said he's not there to be the world's best World of Warships player. He's there to hang out and have fun, and he fully enjoys that. And you know, it's the sort of thing that really needs to be more of on Twitch.
Yeah,
especially with those sorts of games. But there are so many others. There's so many others, and another one that will, like, you'll never leave his stream without feeling full of energy and just like you're ready to conquer the world. Chaos Machine.
Yeah. I remember first time I ran into Chaos, like into his stream, like via TC and the Bob sort of channels and Grumpy, and it was I think it was just at first confusing, like what is hitting me here? What is this wave of excitement or whatever? And it was kind of around the time that I started up doing it myself, and like the reason I got into it, you know, briefly, is because I wanted to bring some positivity and some you know, happy energy, as it were, to the space, but mainly starting from the point of you know, the game, because I thought it's a game I love and I'm passionate about, and so many are, and I was very frustrated by what seemed to be mostly negative, you know, streamers. Varying degrees of that. Some of them like right on that end. But anyway, so and then when I started running into Chaos, and then you know, you start becoming friends via the chat, and then eventually getting to know them a little bit more and talking to them on the TS and whatever, and understanding the person behind it a bit more. Yeah, I just gained more and more respect and time, you know. And now you have to go in there. You kind of like, you don't need your coffee anymore because he wakes you up and gives you that shot of caffeine as you come in.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I was just so many fun memories of that whole experience, and watching it grow was great.
And much like we mentioned with TC, it's that recognition. It's that he has the conversation, the long-term conversation with people. He recognizes people. He knows what you've talked about before, and his being, like, it's true passion for the game. It's true passion for entertainment. But not only that, it is unbridled feelings. Because you catch him in a moment where he's overwhelmed by his community, and they're all fantastic. Like his honest to God thankfulness to the people is just like, you see the emotion in him, and it's you know that it's true, because it's Chaos, you know. But he's just being himself, and he's being thankful, and it's so much fun to see. Like, he is absolutely brilliant, and I guess that's like both him and TC, with the way they are, have been a massive inspiration for me in wanting to be able to recognize names and have that conversation and talk to people when they come in, so that they feel welcomed. Yeah. And also the recognizing the contribution, like the chat are making to the whole experience. Yeah, that's why I, you know, I've always said the line that it's not my channel or chat's channel, but ours collectively. Like, it's our channel. We make this thing as fun together as it is and as it can be, or we don't. And if we don't, well, we're doing something wrong. And luckily, we're always usually laughing and joking or crying, but they're generally happy tears. Yeah. And that's a good way to deal with the frustration. But you're right; those are good sort of inspirational ones. Another one I'd throw in is Jam Dearest. Oh yeah.
Jam was a huge, and I think that was one of the first places that you and I started to meet and hang out.
Definitely.
In Jam's chat, funnily enough, because you were this guy, Tiger, who came in and kept dropping the bits and making Jeremy Irons TTS just say weird stuff about lil juice and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, at the very beginning, I was like, who is this Joker? Like, not in a bad way, but just like, it's pretty funny, but it's also like, this guy again with the TTS. And I was still trying to understand TTS and Twitch and like getting used to it all. But Jam and her, I love Jam. Marmalade is okay, but Jam is better. No, anyway, and because Jam has this. Firstly, I think we share something in common, as I just proven. Both of us never really finish a sentence, or we do, but generally a few minutes later or an hour later or whatever. So I can really identify with that. But I also, her sense of humor, and also, as you were mentioning, her ability to, or in others, her ability to be like, wow, that was absolute rubbish, or, terrible, and then just laugh it off and, F a duck or whatever, and then just turn around and then have a blinding game 3 minutes later or whatever. And I've always been super impressed by that. So, and the other thing I really appreciate with Jam is just her openness.
Oh yeah,
she's dealing with something or whatever, or just whatever life topic comes up. She's got this really good way of kind of being frank and open and honest without it being like some rabbit hole that everybody dives down and loses himself in or whatever. So I've always really appreciated and feel like I learned a lot from the Jam experience.
Definitely. And I think some of the things that people enjoy the most when they're on Twitch is that the place is supposed to be like a genuine place. And one of the people that I feel are able to keep that the best in the way of the conversation and keeping up with what's going on in chat, and which impresses me, Mr. Gibbons. He has a really good grasp of the game. He plays really well, but still there's this amazing ability to keep up with chat, even though he has 1,000 people in it regularly, and it blows me away. And it's not just that keep the conversation going per day. No, it's the remembering back and keeping up with what people have said earlier and so on. And it does impress me, and it's something to reach for. It's something to reach for. But these are, of course, all people that we are very familiar with, like we hang out with and we've played together with and we've raided several times. But there are others out there that also really do impress me. And for some of you who are watching this while we're live on Twitch or while we're on YouTube, because it will be going up there too, you'll see the names Miss Love and Defcon. We'll touch on Defcon first, I think, because I know we rated him. Like, I rated him first once, and then I brought the rest of us over after grumbling. And what's special about him is that he's deaf, and he's enjoying the game to the fullest. And his communication with chat is that he writes, of course, but he's, again, it's that genuine appreciation of the game, that genuine love of the game, and you can see it on his face, because he's so expressive with his face. Yeah. Of course, he has to be, but it's just it brings me such an insane appreciation for how he streams when I see him. That's because he's just sitting down there and enjoying the game, but because of the way he is, you enjoy the game with him, and it's and it's like, let's not just forget the fact that he is deaf, so hearing the game is Like, yeah, how do you react to audio cues that we normally would react to, like the incoming torpedo sound? Like, how is his like how does he mentally process everything that he has to watch for visible cues for? Could you imagine trying to play the game once without audio and trying to do as well as you do now?
So I got 2 points to this.
Mm-hmm.
One is I definitely wouldn't miss hearing random torpedo beats that aren't really there. But the funny thing is, I can't remember. I think it might have been. It's just coincidental. It definitely wasn't like consciously linked to it. But I actually had the game sound off a while back, some months back, or whatever, when I was playing ranked, and I actually found it much easier and less stressful to play ranked, where I was kind of concentrating on what was going on when I couldn't hear all of the game sounds. I have no idea why, but it just was coincidental that I had the sound off. I think I had a phone call or something on speakerphone, and it really worked for me. And I kind of stuck to it for a while, and it kind of helped me out in that particular time. But it is also it is very, very different. And I think, like, if I'm just casual and laughing about or whatever, then the sounds just, they've flesh out the experience. They round off the experience, yeah, as it's meant to. And the weird thing is, if I was actually going to be a tryhard or really try to do ranks and stuff like that, I just don't care. But if I was really trying, I would probably actually play it with the game sounds off now, because there's one less distraction going on. It probably arguably makes the game a bit more boring. But it was just a funny coincidence now I think about it. But you're right with DEF CON. What I liked with DEF CON was the genuine, like the smiles, the look of excitement and learning the game and trying to progress and improve without taking it too seriously, and just having fun with the audience and the level of interaction with chat. Just bringing that extra kind of like being a bundle of energy, even in this kind of silent space or whatever. And that was what I found quite impressive and most enjoyable, was just how genuinely happy to be able to, to enjoy the experience and share that with others, with this sort of a limitation. That brings a big smile to your face to see somebody, because there's also the aspect of it for each individual where I think it's, for me personally, it's always good to be reminded of privilege or the good things that I've got going. It's kind of a humbling experience and makes you kind of check yourself, as the kids say.
Definitely. Then there's, like, we've talked a lot about these people that are bundles of joy and a lot of feeling and passion and so on. Then there's the other spectrum of it, like the other end, where you just sit down and immediately you feel like you can relax and chill out. And Miss Love is that kind of channel where she's mute, so she can't verbally communicate. She's not on camera or anything, but she sits there and she's talking in Twitch chat, of course. And so she's typing, she's communicating with her community, but at the same time, you just feel like you're sitting there getting together with somebody, watching this TV show and talking to them, and it's oddly relaxing. It's oddly relaxing. There's this calm music in the background and warships blowing up left, right, and center, but you're just sitting there going, yeah, I like this. I like this.
It's almost like like thinking about it, it's almost like having the audio book or just reading the book experience of World of Warships, because you're doing a lot of reading while you're there. And yeah. I agree, it's very soothing. I think there's another thing that comes through is this kind of genuine kind of caring attitude that's there in the chat about how attentive and also just I think the sense of humor that shines through with it too. I think for me it feels like a place where, and maybe this is one of the sort of keys to it, is you find yourself in a place where the person, providing the entertainment or whatever is genuinely cares that people are there, they notice, they acknowledge you, and they're sharing the experience with you in whichever medium, whichever way they possibly can. And I think that's kind of the big thing for me is knowing that people actually and this is not to be critical of very, very big channels in the opposite way, because how do you, like someone like a how do you cope with 20,000 people there? It's
yeah,
possible, right? But you can see in their actions and the way they are with their community that they care too. But I think that's probably the similarity, if you will, is that it doesn't matter about the scale of it. It's seeing that people are genuine and that they understand that they're there to not for their own sake, yeah, but they're for the sake of sharing the experience. That's not to be entirely selfless and say you're only there, but you're having fun together with people.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, there are so many great streamers out there, and we could probably sit here and waffle on and on about all of them. But the reason why I brought up Warship streamers is because there's a huge variety of streamers, but the one thing that Warship streamers have in common is, of course, this game that frustrates us at some point or gives us these moments of joy at other points. But it's seeing how people kind of deliver it outwards to their audience, and that's always kind of the fun part, because you have the game that people have in common, and then you sit down and then you start learning about how people do this, like how do they enjoy these things. And another one I want to bring up that I really enjoy watching is Fails with Tales. Who has a very Lely-esque reaction to raids, and to explain for those who are not familiar with this Lely person, it's the reaction of super flustered and kind of distracted, not only kind of distracted but guaranteed distracted, and not really being able to put words into a sentence anymore. But yet goes around and does like 150,000 damage round in Orion, and it's like, how are you this flustered and kind of about the raid coming in? Yeah, and just owns everything in the game. Like I want to learn that part, Because if I get raided by something big, then suddenly I'm just sailing forwards, and I'm just 3 seconds later I'm just gonna be blapped. And I know this, and I need to work on it. So I want to know how does Fails do that? Like, and again, it's the genuine.
I'd like to listen to the sort of hour-long response from Fails as she tries to explain it, and at the end of it, we both just sit there very confused, like confused dogs, like tilted head, like, eh?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Fails swears way less than Lely, should be said. But it's the genuine feeling of being welcomed into a place.
Yeah,
and I think is important there. And I don't think I've ever stumbled into a Warship stream where I don't feel welcomed. Like, with the exception of just a tiny few, the Twitch part of World of Warships is so different than the in-game one. How? What is it about?
Yeah, I mean, there is the, like, Gert raised the question about the more obnoxious ones or whatever, and I said, well, we want to keep this lighthearted and talk about the positive experiences. So of course you get everything. Yeah, there's all the ends, other ends of the spectrum, whatever. But I don't actually, between like my schedule and work and stuff, I don't really get to spend as much time as I used to. When I used to do like only Saturday, Sundays, I had a bit more time to kind of chill and hang in different places. So I've actually found myself, I tend to drift more away from Warships and that kind of genre. I it depends really, like who's on. Like if there, so what I've found is it's become much more important, like the personality and the kind of the vibe in the room by a long way. You know, so like if I'm lucky and it's a time when like a Marangana's on, for example, yeah, there's places that like that where I can just go and, as she would put it, flomp on the couch, pull up a blanket and a hot cocoa or something, and you know that you're getting that virtual hug and you're welcome, and you can be quiet or you can talk, but it's like an extension of your own safe place. So I very much like that. But yeah, and it's funny because these things have developed, or for me, over relatively short space of time. Like the couple of 3 years that I've been around the Twitch space, I only really bumped into Twitch about 3 years ago, and it was a very casual thing. Like occasionally, I didn't really get it. I didn't really pay attention to it. I'd always like watched YouTube and video on demand stuff, and then over time now, having done the streaming thing and you know, or like the things that I've done and seen these different sides of it and got to know some of the people behind the scenes as well. It's given me some very different perspectives and experience, and it keeps expanding and evolving over time as well. So now it's very much like there's even streamers where I'd go and I'll like hang in their just chatting section, and then once they fire up the game they're going to play, I'm like, okay, that was enough of that. I don't want to, you know, they go into a different headspace for the actual game, some of them, and I'm not there for that. I'm there for just that kind of chat and engagement. But it's very, very interesting to as you mentioned, the key point of the topic being the variety, and that, as I think would agree with you, that the overwhelming stuff, as from what I can tell and what I've seen, has been very positive. And you know, if I land somewhere that within 5 or 10 minutes I'm like, well, this is a little bit moany and bitter, then I'm usually out of there pretty quickly. I've gotten quite good at spotting that quite early on.
Yeah. And yet this oddly moves me very naturally on towards the next topic I want to talk about. On the list, it says archetypes of ships in World of Warships, but I want to broaden this out because this is going to be more of a state of the game thing, really, and state of the streamers. Because I don't know if you've had these comments lately in chat where people say, well, almost none of the streamers that normally stream World of Warships are streaming World of Warships anymore. And normally I've just kind of bit my tongue and gone, yeah, I wonder why. But I know we had a conversation about this not too long ago regarding how the game feels to stream these days. And like the constant, like there used to be so much less frustration in it, you know. Now we have this giant patch with captain's rework. Just before that, we've had a long period of time where high explosive has been the big issue, and now suddenly we're getting these Italian battleships. We're going to get the German destroyer soon. And it just feels like it feels like the game is in this huge tumultuous phase where players aren't even allowed to land properly and get used to things before you get thrown something different at you. And I think that is something that is really causing an issue with the enjoyment of, right, of the game. Like, it's just, I feel it myself. I'm struggling more and more with enjoying streaming World Warships. Streaming in general, I love because of the interactions and so on. But Warships it's getting harder and harder to really do enjoy. So, like, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, we've sailed straight into the minefield now. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I guess it had to be done. I like. It's interesting. It's fun to challenge ourselves, I think, as well, to talk about this in the most constructive way we can. So, I mean, I've said it a few times on stream. Like the TLDR is, I used to have like on a scale out of 10, I used to have like maybe 8s and 9s. Probably like 7s and 8s over time, like solo play. Then with stream up, it was, you know, always 8, 9, 10, you know, depending on energy levels and, you know, whatever, but how you're feeling about your own experience. But with chat, they're always, you know, 9s and 10s most times. And yeah, now it's since the last couple of patches, especially, not blaming it all on that. This is more of a kind of like straw that breaks the camel's back thing rather than just like a one-off thing. But it definitely is for me to the point where, I mean, solo enjoyment is, you know, probably around the 5 or 6 mark. And with stream together, we can still get some 8s and maybe some 9s or whatever. But and you have these little peak moments where you've really had a fun moment, typically because with chat and the interaction rather than just purely the game itself, you know. And obviously I do the role playing, so that's very good to distract and take my brain in a different direction. But I think the frustration and what I see and empathize with the player base, as you mentioned, the amount of content coming and sort of churn that brings with it sometimes, or just confusion. So I've found it, or I'm finding it difficult because to stream or the experience of streaming with it, simply because the base game itself is, I guess, just grating with me a little bit. You know, it's frustrating me quite consistently. It's kind of like a little chronic annoyance, you know, like you can hear an irritating peeping sound in the back of your mind or something. You know, there's always something there. So I'm slightly distracted and I'm kind of having to put a bit of extra energy or whatever, trying to, you know, put a thick layer of additional humor or something, do something silly to gloss over it a little bit, I guess would be the expression. And that actually can get a little bit tiring sometimes, you know, like you feel after 3 or 4 hours, maybe, you know, I was going to do 6 or 7 hours of this. Maybe maybe I can eke this out to 5 or something, you know, just talking honestly and openly about it. And I think a lot of people are seeing that. So and I know there's a lot of frustration from the player base. We have very good communities that express themselves very, you know, intelligently and thoughtfully for the most part. There's always, you know, the moments of frustration or whatever, but we typically know the, you know, those people well enough that we can kind of take those comments and how they're meant and the right sentiment. But it's tough right now, and I think, you know, we talked about it briefly on the stream earlier. It goes in the direction of this disconnect between, maybe this is quite a good sort of analogy or whatever way to picturing it. It's like, here's wargaming, here's the player base, and they're just ever so slowly over time drifting apart from one another. And it becomes harder and harder then to get messages back and forth, right? So, and I think that feels like the problem to me is there's definitely been some short-term meta shift. You know, it's not just HE anymore, it's flooding spam as well. It's the players choosing to position their ships where they do now because of certain skills, and just, I think it's just the general confusion, like a fog of war that's befallen everyone in the player base, and we're all a bit confused about how to find our way out of it and how to still keep finding the fun. I suppose that I'll the last point I'll add is, I didn't think that wargaming would manage through a patch. So I'll treat this as one patch. I didn't think wargaming would achieve the response and the feeling I have in me of, for example, not being able to 100% enjoy, like feel 100% confident that I'm going to enjoy, for example, taking the Assassio out, or taking the Jean Bart as a better example, because battleships are, for me, really struggling right now. Yeah? And you can work with them, but when I talk about all of this, I'm talking about fun factor. So what do I, as a long-term player, find fun to do in the game?
Yeah.
So that they've managed to bring me, and again, not one or two, like I've had a bad game or I'm in a bad mood. They've quite consistently brought me games where I've come out of the game thinking, I'm not smiling. I'm playing a game. It's fun. I'm enjoying being here with everyone, but I'm not, inside, I'm not smiling about how that game experience went. And if you can manage to do that with ships like Jean Bart, ships like Bourgogne, just to highlight a couple, or ship like an Assassio, especially, where I love my lolly boat fun, then they've done something wrong, And again, I'm still trying to work it out. I think it takes another month or two of experience. Is it just this one shift, or is it this is the back-breaking straw? And this particular dwarven camel has had enough of it. I don't know.
One thing I've been thinking about that would make it less frustrating for me, because, like you say, like you mentioned this skill that we've talked about before. Deadeye, I'm looking at you. With the positioning of battleships, and I think one thing that would make it easier for me is to see Deadeye applied to the ships that would benefit them. For instance, the ones that really do have a low stealth, so that you get in close. Like we mentioned the Roma during our stream. I think you can get it down to 11.2 as a base detection. And if you sit within, like, let's say 12 to 13 kilometers with the Roma, and you have that added dispersion, you are still close enough to make a difference with the battleship. And you provide that threat of a Roma, a Roma in close range. You really don't want that, because those guns will punish you. However, when you see people apply this to ships that really don't have the need for it, aka the Thunderer, and then they just go to A1 and snipe from there, or they apply it to ships that really don't, like, something will always get within the base detection range, and then sit there and be spotted so that you don't get the use of Deadeye. And another thing that happens is that a lot of these people will position themselves such that, okay, I can get the use of Deadeye, and then something comes closer. Oh, I need to back off. Because I need my Deadeye. No, stop it.
Yeah, you're there now.
Yeah.
Contribute.
Yeah. So, and I think something that would help is to have the archetypes. Like that is literally the topic here. Archetypes of ships in World of Warships to cause less disparity and less frustration. Because,
so you're talking about things like a brawler type, sniper type.
Correct.
Support, out and out support, that kind of thing. Okay.
So you have battleships, which is the main group, but within battleships, you could have snipers, you could have brawlers, you could have these different ones. And the sniper type would already have a long range on their guns, and they would need Deadeye. They already have it built in by the fact that they have such a good dispersion and good long range guns with hard hitting ammo. Whereas, so build up the archetypes. That way you can actually have the tanks be tanky and build them for brawling, get them up. And another thing that would lead to is the ability to give people points for doing their role. A tank tanking instead of sitting in A1 and sniping would get extra points for the, let's say, the potential damage he soaks.
Mm-hmm.
And a sniper being able to consistently put down damage at range would get extra points, but they would have to be rewarded equally for it. Because right now we have a game that focuses on just giving you points for doing damage and focusing on solo play.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the crux of the issue. So I'm sure Wargaming's answer right now will be, well, that's what we did with giving you the chance to choose all the skills for yourself, because you can choose what you're, yeah, okay, whatever, right? But it would be one of those things that you're not really going to have the opportunity to do. But like, let's have a sit down and talk with some of the Wargaming team that play the game just as players, and say, are you having as much fun as you were before? Right, and just like have that kind of thread, and just to, because I would imagine they would point some things out to me that I've not observed, and I'd be like, oh, that is interesting, that's cool, I'll think about that, maybe, I'm sure there's things for me to learn there too. But I would imagine that some of a lot of the conversation would go in the direction of, yeah, I suppose you've kind of got a point there, if you ask yourself emotionally, how do you feel about it? So I think that one of the things, like, Deadeye's just the obvious example. I think we both feel this way. It's not just about Deadeye. It's the whole raft of changes and the sort of psychological impact that it's had on the player base.
Right.
Deadeye is just the scapegoat, if you will, right? So, I mean, because Deadeye is one of those skills that leans to me in the direction of like, well, basically what you're saying is you've got some ships that are kind of broken at doing what you perceive a battleship's role to be, which being medium to long range, support ships or whatever, right? So I think that if you think about in theory, one of the core reasons behind the change was to give more variety. And I think you hit on a really good point there, is that where are the brawlers? How is it possible to brawl? So the only way you can do brawly tank is what I call like boring survival builds, right? I am happy to be completely wrong about how I look at it, but this is emotionally and whatever how I feel about that. Things like fire prevention bore the utter living poop out of me, because it's like, really? We'll just make it like a 1 or 2 pointer then, and not anyway. Because what you're saying is, the meta of the game, the strongest part of the meta of the game is damage over time. It used to be HE spam, and now it's HE spam plus flooding, which I actually feel okay about. I'm happy that flooding has a more prominent role. It's just that HE spam and fires are already kind of a little bit detrimental psychologically. So now you've basically made everyone nervous about being flooding at the same time as on fire, right? So you've kind of taken the worst thing and mimicked it with the second worst thing, so that we have two things to worry about. Anyway, that's the BB player inside me talking. But I think that they aren't bringing the variety, because you've kind of got really at max 2 builds, right?
Yeah.
At least for battleships, and probably for most of the classes, right? For DDs, I think DDs are kind of the main winner in air quotes out of this. Although what I'm finding as a DD player is that whilst the skills are good and you can win with the skills now, extra flooding, extra torp speed, more speed when you're stealthy, that kind, in terms of a traditional DD sort of role, not gunboats. Whilst that's all good, all of your targets are now over there somewhere.
Yep.
So, I think that they would be extremely happy, Shimakaze Union out there in the player base, if the 20-kilometer torps were kind of usable on a consistent basis. Because great, now you're super stealthy, everyone's miles back, so you can do loads of capping, you can have knife fights with DDs, and you can just torp the crap out of everything at the back of the map. So, but unfortunately, those torps are not like this Asio, where not very good. So anyway, getting back to the point, I think that Archetypes would be. I've thought of this in the past as well. I think it's a great idea. I think they've tried to implement that in some way with the commander skills, but maybe it highlights that there's a dimension missing between the base build of the ship and the modules. The captain skills, maybe there's just there's a gap somewhere in the middle to whether they could apply some logic to. It's all database and objects, so it's all doable in theory. And yeah, so I think it would be cool to say, oh, I want to be a battle cruiser. So maybe you get gain some speed with your ship or something, but you're a little less tanky than you would be, or your guns are more punchy, but you're more of a glass cannon, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they solved that by, in theory, having different ships. Like a Scharnhorst is not the same ship as a Sinop or something like that. But I think that the best thing I can see about this rework is the framework of it itself and the potential to bring more dimensions in. Like you see that by the captain having different skill sets applied to different classes. But where I feel like where it misses something now is maybe that module loadout as we know it today for the ships. Wouldn't it be cool if they'd also brought in 2 or 3 loadouts for the ship? I was an advocate a while back, and I still think it's good that there's something in there to have different loadouts for the ships. Now we've got loadouts for commanders. Cool.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily like the way they're implemented right now, but at least the principle and the framework is cool. Can we have something like that for the ship so that you could have genuinely more variety, and mix and match?
Let me just clarify something. Are you then thinking that, for instance, let's say you have the Yamato in one setup, and then you can just click a button, and then you have a Yamato in a different setup?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. So you could have your tank, or you could have your sniper build, just to give them 2 simple monikers. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. I like that idea, because then you can say, okay, I have a mission to do this, and I really love using the Lenin, but the Lenin isn't really good at sitting at long range with the current build, so I'll give him different guns, but it'll have a different effect on the rest of the ship. I'm guessing you would have to do that in that case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that because what they've brought in is, as chat's mentioning it as well, it's like the secondary, we have to try and differentiate a little bit. Brawling per se, so just being aggressive and trying to tank damage for the team and support your ships by being relatively close in, you can still do that. You can play that way. Will you have as much fun as you used to? No way. You'll have that 1 in 20 game or something where it was amazing, but you're not gonna consistently take the Massachusetts out and just play 10 games the Massachusetts back to back. You're not gonna have 7 out of 10 good games or something. I'm talking about good games in terms of win, lose or draw, massive damage or not. You just had fun. You were in the brawl. You were playing the game and that ship the way you wanted to.
Yeah,
that's not. Now you're kind of like in a 1 or 2 out of 20. This is not empirical numbers, but gut feeling based on my experience in the game recently. So brawling, but the difference is more subtle than that, is that you're not coming out with the kind of numbers and the kind of feeling, the emotional feeling of whether you got everything out of that experience the way you used to. So brawling is different, not dead. Different also means probably for me as a brawling battleship captain, less fun, significantly less fun than before. I will add one small caveat. I've been trying to pay a bit more attention to some of the numbers in the game.
Yep.
I haven't had much time, but I have noticed that even though the number of hits on the secondaries is way down, damage numbers are still somewhere where they're okay if you actually look at the detailed report. I mean, what you're not getting anymore is 300 secondary hits, a bunch of fires, and like 40, 50K's worth of damage out of your secondaries, right? That's just not happening anymore. But what you can do is you can still get 15 to maybe 25K in a really good scenario if you take the skills and if you move your ship around the map appropriately and so on, so still situational. It just doesn't feel as groovy. It doesn't feel so cool when you finish an Alsace game and the secondary counter and you did a lot of, brawling, you're in the fight, and you come out of that game and it says 110 secondary hits. They're like, where's the 400 or 500?
That you've been used to in that same ship. Yeah.
And that was what made the Alsace so much fun, because the rate of fire, the number of hits, and the fact that you would get very little chip damage, but you would get fire set with them. And just that sheer volume, even if it's little chip damage, eventually adds up to 20, 30, 40K or whatever, right? So that's gone. So there's certain, ships, I would say, and I think that's the sad thing. Maybe this is this dimension of archetypes of ships versus the commander skills. is that yes, you've got some more variety perhaps in different builds for the captains on paper, but the net result is if you were really enjoying how you used to play those ships, you won't enjoy them anymore.
I want to roll back to something you mentioned, this whole loadout thing. Did you play the key battles in the last Halloween event?
Not really, because I played a few and then I didn't really.
Well, the ability you had on those ships were that you had different hull types. So one hull type would, for instance, give you a faster ship, but less HP.
Okay.
And then you would have a third one that could give you extra ramming damage if you rammed straight on. But you have to be straight on in order to get that. And you had the ability to switch that on the same ship without any issue. And then you had the same thing you could do with guns. Some had longer range, but could only shoot AP. Some had shorter range, but would set fires really easily, but it would be lower damage per hit. And you had this ability to set up the ship in a way that suited your play style. So for somebody who knew that they would be super aggressive, having more HP and the ramming ability would be wonderful. But then pairing that with secondaries that did that and so on. So I actually started enjoying the key battles throughout my playing of them. I started out thinking, no, this is weird. This is not fun. But I knew, like, the instant I saw a certain ship out there and it was colored red, I was like, he's running that hull. That means he's going to have more HP than me. And I can see that his guns are lit green. That means he's going to have the faster firing one, but shorter range. I should stay further away. And I could adapt myself to him. Or I would know that, I'm screwed. I need to run.
Yeah.
So that part of it was actually really fun. And I could see that becoming a thing for the tech tree ships too. So that you could go in and you could make your Yamato a secondary ship.
Yeah.
And just have weird guns that maybe go like 12 kilometers, so that you know that the Yamato guns, once your secondaries open up, you can absolutely super blap something, but you would be more tanky or something. I think that could be a cool thing to have on the tech tree ships.
Yeah.
Instead of this,
I think they could do that.
Yeah, but because right now you have the old idea of unlock new guns, unlock new hull and everything, and then you unlock the new ship.
Yeah.
And pretty much anywhere you would have, like, upgrading to those new part and pieces would be the cookie cutter. It would be the best choice, like with the exception of just a few tiny parts on some of the American deities. But yeah, I think that would bring in the ability to show these archetypes. And or not necessarily even show the archetypes, but then you could easily see, okay, there's a Hindenburg, he's built for long range pelting, or this is a Hindenburg built for tanking, you know? Then you could see with the Hindenburg sitting in the middle or going in towards the middle or sitting in the middle of two brothers, you know that he's doing his job. And then
instead of getting the chat going like, WTF Hindenburg, what are you doing?
Exactly. Which is what is causing so much frustration and disparity right now. And the reason why I want the archetypes, because knowing what people are built as and how they function, it removes that whole aspect of being salty at somebody. But like somebody in chat said, balancing would be hard. However, if you manage to pull that off, you're going to have a long-term game where long-term players like you and me would still get to do things the way we want it. They could bring in new players and still have the progression and everything that gets them going. And you could build on it. You could build on it so far and wide. And it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think, yeah, there's another topic that's popping up a little bit in the chat, and I think I'd like to touch on it in this context. Is, and I've said it before, but it was I think Sophie Line, who's a CC of World of Tanks, and she made a really really good point once in one of her streams, was people were talking about balancing and these kind of topics, and she said, well, first of all, you have to fundamentally understand that wargaming's entire sort of suite of games, or the you know, these ones, the big two, let's say, are designed sort of ground up to reward individuals, you know, the individual player. So that's the fundamental kind of design that they say that's at the core of the game. So there's various things that have maybe been tweaked over time that you know, like spotting and stuff like that. But let's be honest, whenever we start talking about those things, we generally all start rolling our eyes and being like, nah. And I think that you know, just to address that in the chat as well, and as part of this discussion point, I think that's it's problematic. It's good in that it's got them where they are, and new players coming in will also be excited and see it that way. But once you get past that, say, first year, give or take, maybe it takes some a few bit longer, some a bit less time. Once you've got past that kind of new year and at the point where you've unlocked, for as an individual player, enough of like the mid to end game content, you're looking for more what keeps you coming back, what's the repetitive experience, and how engaging and rewarding is that. And I think that, you know, I think we've seen a shift that the player base is maybe slowly getting away from this silly idea that statistics for your account are really important. A lot of people probably still see it that way, but trust me, they're irrelevant. And you're only as good as like the current game you're in and the last one you played that you can remember, so you can learn from it. That's kind of my philosophy to it. So, because if you're not in the moment enjoying that game, frankly, what's the point of being there? This is your free time, and you're, you know, privileged enough to be playing the game at that point, because real life's left you alone for 5 minutes. So if you're not right in that and sort of alive in that moment, then, you know, you're kind of difficult to have a strong opinion, I guess, about it. Anyway, you can still have one. That's everybody's right. But anyway, I think that I'd like to see them. I think the archetype thing. So we're talking about addressing this current kind of rework and this weird feeling of like the level of fun dropping. I think that some of the reason why some of the fun's dropping is it feels like the player base has ironically less choice. You know, there's, you know, all these different classes and the different individual skills, but it feels like you've actually got less choice because the actual alternative builds don't really function effectively. Not, you know, not 9 times out of 10 or 7 times out of 10 or whatever, but like 1 or 2 times out of 10. So you're kind of taking choice away from people because you've got the choice. You can play really crap because the game meta won't allow you to have fun and enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that if they could enhance things like spotting damage, like potential damage, like maybe some sort of positional where you are in on the map compared to where enemy ships are or where your team are. So like, how well are you supporting them with your range? And, you know, say a short-term buff, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, you use the F3 and you say, everybody target this DD that's just appeared 8 kilometers away and it's a real threat. For the next salvo, 2 salvos, I don't know, you get additional base XP buff if you hit that ship that was called out by your friendly. So you actively respond to your teammate calling for help and shoot at that target. Now that might be coincidental, or it could be somebody deliberate, but it would get people thinking, "Ooh, if I target that ship." Now, of course, you know, somebody will come up with the, well, what if they're just saying, well, hit the Yamato at the back of the map with the F3? Yeah, sure. But I would say overall, generally, people are mostly calling out the targets that are a genuine threat, usually from their own personal perspective. So I'm about to die, so everybody kill the shit that's shooting me. But nevertheless, it's usually a cruiser or like a radar cruiser somewhere that's being annoying, or a DD that's a high threat in close proximity. And I think that there's, you know, just off the top, literally just thought of it now, an idea, and it would be good to be able to have you know, the channels within the community to the game developers to be able to express these things, and they have the forums and all that, but those usually just turn into like rants, and I never go to the Wargaming Warship streams because it's usually just a ship fest.
Yeah. So you mean like, I don't know, the community contributors?
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got the community contributors. I think that they should have a more it would appear, I'm not a CC, but it would appear that overall they're not really listened to or responded to in a more effective and consistent manner. And there's many cases where they're like, well, we got completely ignored on this and this. I think most of the CCs were like, don't do the Deadeye thing. That's just going to exacerbate some of the issues we've got in the game. In Wargame, we're like, oh, thanks for the feedback. We're going to do it anyway.
Pretty much.
So I think there's that. Yeah. So I think that they need to. I think that they did, or I gave them 2 years ago, like a lot of kudos for implementing their community management program and the CC program, and having at that time a lot of interaction between the CCs and your Conways and your Chrysanthos and all that. But then it's almost as if, I know the NA team was very strong at the time as well, with Femininely and Kami Samurai and what was her name? Trig Tragic Loss. That was it. And they had a really good group. And then Wargaming kind of just stepped in from management and were like, you guys are having too much fun. I don't imagine this is what they said in the memo, but it felt to me like, hey, you guys are interacting and having really good, honest, and constructive conversations. So I used to be in the NA stream chat a lot as somebody who'd fled to the NA server. And it was really, that was a very different experience. The community engaged and had constructive conversations with the community team. Genuinely, like they'd go, oh, I hate this thing. And they'd be like, well, what about if you look at it here? And there was good, they weren't just defending their position all the time. This is kind of, because they were players as well.
Yeah.
So, they were players more than they were like pure community managers or whatever.
Yeah, they weren't forced to walk the company line.
Wargaming stepped in, we're like, you're not going to stream very often anymore. So, and I think that's where like the twins suffer a little bit, because they're at the forefront of taking all the crud. But I think the problem is obviously not with them, and much respect to them for kind of putting up with, and they like their jobs obviously a lot. But I think that it should be clear. It's symptomatic. If I was sitting there as a developer, even if you're looking at the business side of things, I would be very worried about why is it a rage fest in our channel?
Yeah.
Every single time.
Just editor's note and clarifying here, when Grumble say the twins, he's talking about Mr. Conway and Chrysanthos, who are community managers and such for World of Warships. Just so that's it. And they are hired by Wargaming.
Yeah. So yeah. I think that, but I think that beyond the community contributor program is, in theory, and it can be, if people put the energy and the emphasis in that way, a good bridge between the community and and Wargaming. But I think you've got far too few bridges that are kind of actively, let's say, in use and maintained. So a lot of CCs have kind of felt burned, and many stepped away or stepped down from being CC program in the last couple of years. And just be blunt about it, a lot of it is just, well, you get a lot of stuff you can give away.
Yeah.
So, and from my point of view, it would be right now the only thing that would be attractive about being a CC for Wargaming would be able to giving a whole bunch of stuff away to the community, because they're just awesome and I want them to have fun and get stuff. But then even that is tinged now with the, like I wouldn't give a Massachusetts away right now, because I'd be like, you're not going to have the fun in it that you used to be able to. So yeah, so I'm a bit wary of that. And I'm worried that there's a lot of CCs that are kind of in it and I'm not criticizing them. Like, please, I want to state for the record, I'm not criticizing individuals because why not, right?
Yeah,
But
no, exactly.
is that what you want to get out of your? And I know they have other obligations and all these things, but again, if you're going to be ignored on the other obligations, then of course you're going to focus and emphasize the fact that you got giveaways.
Yeah,
because you're a streamer generally. Most are, probably not all, but most. And so there's a huge incentive just from growing your channel and sharing some stuff out with people and having access to all the ships and the new content a little bit earlier. But then what's the point of that if it's within the space that's kind of going in a little bit of a downward spiral?
yeah, and the thing you mentioned about the giveaways for the CCs is it's a bit weird because you'd think that the giveaways were minted on the CC being able to give back to their community, not just the entire World of Warships community, but more minted towards their own community to say thank you for hanging out, thank you for supporting not only me but also World of Warships through this. But and I'm going to use myself as an example here. When I do giveaways, I set it as have to have been a follower for at least 2 weeks, and have to have been here since that date, because I want to give back to my community. I am, after all, giving from my own pocket when I do them, but the Warships giveaways, the CCs, the only demand they have is that it's done either live or through an open channel that isn't restricted. And that's fair, but if I'm going to do a giveaway on my channel and then have somebody post notes about how I can do it, it puts a sour taste on it for my sake. Because like we've probably seen, a lot of us, is that once you start mentioning a lot of giveaways, yeah, you're going to have people pop up and then it's going to be, giveaway? Or just use your giveaway commands. And that's just not okay. When you're sitting here streaming and you're providing entertainment, you're trying to provide a conversation or a place for people to hang out, and the first thing people say is, giveaway? Or exclamation point raffle? Like, no, go away. I don't want your... Yeah.
I'm wondering.
Like, I don't want your kind here. That's it's such a weird thing to have to say as somebody streaming. Like, I don't want you in my channel. Like, why are you here? If you're only here for giveaways, then no, that's just not okay. And oddly enough, we have some really good segues today, dude. Yep. I swear this isn't planned. This brings...
What I love about it. It's good to be on good wavelengths and then just see where the trail goes.
Yeah, and this brings us over to the next subject, or big topic that I want to talk about. Twitch etiquette. What is okay? What's not? What's accepted? I've written down affiliate badge as a note there. And how to note that others are streaming, and I mentioned it briefly under our editorial meeting, which I'm going to call it, which is kind of cool to have an editorial meeting.
It is
that this is, or rather you mentioned it, that this is not supposed to be a completely, let's just rat down and say, no, this is the negative parts and don't do this and don't be that way. No, we rather want to focus on the positive, but there are certain ways of communicating with streamers out there that it fully frustrates me, at least, when somebody pops in and the first they ask for is a giveaway, or they haven't picked up on how things are being done in the channel Like they're coming in and they're being all boisterous and cool and so on. It's fun. Yeah, bring your own energy by all means. But make sure that the things you say and the way you behave fits in. Especially with the tone of the stream, because it's not every day that I'm as high energy as I could be. And I might not be on board with certain jokes that I've other times would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this goes for so many others too. So, I mean, I don't know how to go on from this without it becoming negative, but it's just, I see so many people talk about their own stream, their own place of being. When we're in a place where this is your, like, I'm going to use me as an example here. I get somebody coming in here and they say, oh yeah, I'm going to start my stream now. I've never met you. I have no way of knowing that you're a streamer. Why do I need to know that you're going to start your stream? Like, it feels like you're baiting for something. It feels like you're actively trying to bait for somebody to come on over and click that link, or to ask, oh, you're a streamer. What do you stream? And I've tried that last part, but it's still, like, it could be my own personality, and I will fully admit this, where I feel like people only mention this because they want something from me. Am I the only one thinking that? Am I crazy?
Well, firstly, I'd like to apologize for constantly coming over to your channel when you stream and saying, "Hey, look at me, look at me." But no, you're definitely not alone in that. I think that firstly, I think there's lots of gray areas, and it's a little bit hard to kind of like apply a rule to. But I also understand that it's kind of helpful to have a sort of a a few principles, if you will, or even rules, because the things can go too much the other way. I mean, I've seen all types. I've seen the absolutely smashed, baseball bat over the head straight away. What the hell are you doing? Kind of response. I've seen, which you're not, by the way. I'm not talking about you usually hit them with some cutting wit and bring it to the point and say, let's just chill and kind of get to know here, rather than, and then if it goes further, then you're like, okay, move along, please. But I've seen like the real harsh end of the spectrum on it, and I've seen almost entirely the opposite, where people just embrace everyone and anyone, and I kind of like, I can understand both. And I don't know if there's really like what I would call like a right or a wrong, or something hard and fast. But I think we're moving within that kind of sort of, keep using my framework, but we're moving within that kind of areas of, like, you can either go full on embrace everyone, come in, and immediately, like, I've seen someone who's literally like, hey, welcome aboard, good to have you here, do you stream at all? I've literally seen that example where people just throw it out there, and then I've seen, as I said, the whole almost banhammer immediately kind of response. I've seen I think Firebane is a guy in the role-playing community who has a really nice approach. Like, it's not constantly like open floor, market yourself, but he does a thing specifically that he learned from other streamer friends of him, where he does like I think it's called a streamer salute. So every once in a while, not necessarily every stream, but like, he'll be like an hour or two into a stream, and he'll go, oh, folks, I just want to do a quick streamer salute moment. Can you let me know if you're here active in chat right now, or lurking or whatever? Do you stream, or do you do content on YouTube or anything? Do you create something that, if you do, wave your hand in chat and tell me a little bit about yourself.
I like that idea. I like that idea.
Yeah, it's really, really cool idea. So I think about it every once in a while, and then usually when I'm not on stream and I've forgotten about it. But he just does the streamer salute, and they get the chance to just write one or two entries in chat, just not go over the top. He'll be like, just tell me, what do you stream? what's your stream like? So how do you, bring that across or whatever? Tell me a little bit about your kind of your personality on the stream, whatever. It doesn't use those words, but in that direction. And I think that's really cool. And I've seen others that are like, they do let me go and give you a follow, and they're like live, and they'll stop wherever they're doing and they'll go and immediately follow people as soon as they find out that they're a fellow streamer or whatever. So I ultimately, I don't think there's like a hard line, but in terms of people turning up, and this is just, I don't know if there's maybe enough, like there should maybe a starter pack, thinking of streaming, read this like
yeah,
here's like 3 good principles to follow, and one would be don't self-advertise. Go and find spaces that are either the vibe is similar to yours, even if the content's very different. So one person might be a chef and the other person is a video gamer or something like that. Yeah, but the vibe, there's a connection there.
Yeah.
Or typically more classically, it's I play WoWs, this person plays WoWs, so yeah. But the thing to do is go and hang out and enjoy that space.
Yeah.
Or if you don't enjoy it, then what are you doing there thinking about advertising yourself in the first place, right? So even if that is somehow, partially an intention or like a desire you have to do, like get yourself out there, because it's kind of, in a funny way, stressful or exciting. It depends. When you're brand new and you're like, I'm sure people will enjoy it. Everybody has this thing of like, I'm doing everything right all the time, so definitely people are going to want to be here with me. So the fact they're on this other channel is an absolute accident. Yeah. And I need to go and rescue these people. Obviously comical exaggeration, but there's an element of like, why are people not here? Why aren't people liking me or my channel or whatever? Yeah. In whatever ways you interpret that. So if people starting up or returning or wanting to just build up their channel after a while or whatever, there's this huge temptation to say, I'll just throw a couple of things in there and like, oh, hey, I just got off playing this game on stream as well. Or, they'll throw that. Just don't do those things, because if you go and genuinely hang out and enjoy the vibe and or the game content or whatever content it is, then just be a chatter, say hi, hang out, interact with the streamer. But also one of the other telltale signs often is they'll only exclusively interact with the streamer. They ignore mods. They ignore other people chatting. They don't engage, and that's it's not always, but it's a bit of a red flag. It's like, you're only, don't over at the streamer. That's because the streamer gets stressed sometimes by that, or I do. I think a lot, because you don't want to have missed something. You're like, why there's a highlighted thing in my chat, I must have missed something important or whatever. And it's not to say it's not important, but it becomes confusing then to like read through and try and, you might have missed something. Somebody might be a long-term member of your community. Just an example off the top of my head. Maybe they've just had a bad situation happen, member of the family's ill or whatever, right? Lost their job. And then below and above that, there's somebody going, hey, look at me at streamer. I just got 10K damage with a, torpedo hit or something. It's cool, but, but these are things. So some of this is general Twitch etiquette and some of it is more for streamers. But I think streamers specifically, if they think about it, and you always make the point about, how would I feel if people came to my place of work or whatever and trying to advertise their own wares. And I think that definitely the piece of advice would be a part of that community and engage and sharing that fun, and you will become known over time. You can potentially, once you've been there a while, I wouldn't emphasize this on day one, but you could eventually whisper someone. We're always open to that kind of thing. We don't want to get flooded with like a million, hey, I did, one stream or something yesterday. Because you won't have time to process and answer it all. And it's also a bit weird, like just reaching out directly to somebody. But if you've been there a while and you've become kind of reasonably known to that streamer and that streamer's community, then you can reach out to them, or typically join people's Discords and talk a little bit in there about what you do. There's usually creative channels or streamer idea channels or something like that. and you can throw ideas in there. Again, being careful.
The thing you mentioned about Discord is actually a very good point, because in Discord there will be a separate status when you're streaming, as long as you're using streamer mode. That means instantly people can see, this is a streamer. You can click on it, you get sent to their channel. And once you're live, like if you are trying to get to know a community, and I'd say one of the best ways of letting somebody know that you're a streamer, hosting and raiding. Because instantly, when you get a raid, you know that, yes, people have been in this stream, and they are now being moved over here. It opens up the conversation. It is that importance of having that room to be able to say and freely be able to say, hi, yes, I am a streamer too. Unless it's like I said before, this whole forced idea of blurting out that you're a streamer and so on, and trying to get somebody's attention that way is bad. But if the conversation is there, like you mentioned with this Bane guy, where he has the streamer salute, that is an open floor and a time to get it out there when the conversation is on that topic. I will specifically ask people, are there any streamers out there? Let me know. But otherwise than that, I'm not going to sit here and click through every single name and know, he and she are a streamer, or this person's a streamer, and then they stream this and that. No, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to read all the notifications anymore. I really wish I could. And what you mentioned about this @ing the streamer every single time, I've actually removed the notifications on that for my own sake. Because, yeah, I get it. It's fun to have the interaction with the streamer. But trust me, there are so many others in the same room that have the same idea, but are equally as amazing to have that conversation with. And that is also a way of getting yourself known to the community and getting yourself known as a streamer. Because if you talk to anybody else in the community and have a conversation about it back and forth with the way of you have a common interest in the game that is currently being streamed, and you mention to this other person, like you're not even engaging the streamer directly, and you're not bursting in out there. Like it's a normal conversation. You could easily say, without it being self-promotion or being seen as self-promotion, oh yeah, I had this happen on the stream one time where somebody clipped a moment, and then you can describe the moment, you can have the conversation. But like I always say, read the room. If the way of the room is that it's super focused on the streamer right now, and there's not a free conversation going on in chat, don't do it. Like, see how is the room reacting? How is the room behaving? If you can't see that people are sitting down and it's just, a bit of a chilled out time, then don't do that. I see people do that all the time in other places, and I'm like, why would you blurt this out right now? It is clearly a super intense moment in the stream. Why would you say this right now? One streamer I absolutely love to bits, and it's so good to see her streaming again, is Hello, It's Colo. And she once had like this super emotional moment in the middle of a wonderful game. And this guy's like, oh, I could easily write some music for you for a video for this. I am a composer after all. And I'm like, really, dude? And she just looks at it and goes, okay, you've mentioned this several times now. Please stop. This is bordering on self-promotion. And I'm like, bordering on? If this was my stream, he'd be so yeeted out of there. But, I mean, it is up to the individual streamer. But, yeah. Like, how do you go about navigating that properly? And one thing I would love to see, and I know we talked a tiny bit about this in the editorial meeting, yeah, affiliate badges.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see affiliate badges. And also, before we go on, Sir Word said, also don't call out streamer B in streamer A stream. Yes, I completely agree. Like, if somebody calls me out in the stream, I'm like, no, stop, shh. Fuck off. We're here to watch the streamer. Let's not talk about me here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, don't do that either, please.
Yeah.
Like let the streamer interact with other streamers and say, hey, how was your stream? Don't be like, hey, how was your stream earlier? Like, no, stop. Ixnay.
So, I had a thought about not that point, but the previous one with the badges, because we did talk about it in the editorial meeting.
Yeah.
And I would imagine this is entirely possible. But what if they had like a badge that was like a third or a fourth badge or something by default, which signified, like, say, a little TV set with the Twitch logo on it or something, right? That signified has actively streamed, let's say, a 1 hour stream minimum. Again, just brainstorming, right? Within the last 7 days. So that you could, you and everyone would see. So this would be an element, there'd be an element of, like, you know, self-advertising or whatever from the system. But you could see that that was an active streamer. Again, just really spitballing an idea, not saying those would be the numbers or the way to do it. Because I think affiliate badge, I like that idea as well. I think when we talked about this in the editorial meeting, the part of the challenge is that the gap between viewer, streamer, partner is already very compressed. Like, there's no other level really beyond that.
Yeah.
You know, unless you say like Twitch star or something, but realistically, there's no. You know, as I mentioned, this is a silly example, but Co-Carnage is a partner, and you and I are partners.
Yep.
Co-Carnage has 1.3 million followers and streams to 30,000 people.
Yep.
So yeah, right. But there's no. So I feel almost for Co, like, he doesn't care, and we don't care either. But you know, there's a way of looking at it and saying, well, shouldn't there be some kind of, like, I don't know, I don't want to go into like gold partners or something, whatever, right? But I think that conversely, there's a very compressed space between kind of everyone and, you know, certainly affiliate and then partner. I do feel like affiliate is barely like recognized. You get the subs, you get the things that come with being but the affiliate status itself isn't really recognized or well represented on the platform. I agree. So I think an affiliate badge could be cool. I just think that they'd have to probably then put some work into avoiding that there's too much of a compressed space there, that there's the meaning of the partner or whatever, and you know, which is really, for me anyway, more of a signifying the work and energy and the time and the building of the community is more what that means to me. Plus the external view that people who don't know me already, like games developers, like whatever, and like the Twitch space itself and the internet space can recognize that, hey, I've put that work in and I've, you know, got to that level. So, but I do think that something that would denote that you're an active streamer would be helpful. Now, maybe they would do that in a way that the stream broadcaster sees those symbols and everyone else doesn't, so that mods say, and the broadcaster would see it, and therefore they would be able to go, oh, just flag it. Oh, that person's a streamer, and then you can decide. Like what we do with our mod team is generally the mods will go and have a look if we're curious about somebody or thinking about starting to shout them out. We might go and have a look for 5 minutes or whatever and see like what's the vibe, because we want to be careful that we're not like, hey, here's a sort of standardized shout out thing because we recognize this person, or even if it's a check mark, but it turns out when you look at their content, they're all like blah 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 blah, blah, and not not what we're really into promoting. So not following that kind of positive vibe, because I don't give two hoots whether it's a partner or not. I want them to be bringing something to make people feel happy and enjoy their lives, again, without wanting to criticize people that are all just down and whatever. I'm sure that it takes all things for all people, so I'm not judging, but I'm just saying that I don't want to be somewhere where it's just effing and blinding and bringing everything down all the time. I think we don't need to be promoting that. So but yeah, that's I think the badge is a good idea. I just think that it's a bit weird now sometimes turning up in a new channel where I've not been before and having the check mark there and being like, as soon as I say anything, often I won't say anything. I know I can turn that off, change it, or whatever, but who's going to bother doing that every time, right? I'm almost like a little reluctant to go and start chatting because I don't want it to be like, oh, there's a check mark guy who's just turned up or whatever. Because I want to avoid that there's any sort of sense. Well, this is kind of on the broadcaster, but I want to avoid any sense that like someone's turn up who's trying to somehow market or steal their audience or something like that. Which generally is nonsense. As far as I'm concerned, I think that people, if they have enough confidence about themselves and their channel and their content, they're probably not really too worried about that. But I think there's a difference between just stepping over that line and being like, hey, I do this, hey, I do that, hey, look at this other video, can I post a clip? And you're like, well, you've been here like 2 minutes, and then it, funnily enough, turns out to be a clip of what they were doing on their stream the other day. And then you look at it more closely and you're like, you created this clip yourself.
Yeah. No, the reason why I like the idea of the badges is that, and here are some Twitch facts that I looked up when I was looking at partner push. Out of all the accounts that actually stream on Twitch, only 3% of them ever hit affiliate. And out of all of those, again, not a whole lot of them hit partner. Like you yourself know, the numbers to hit partner, they are pretty severe. Like you have to actively go for it. You have to put in some hours, and you have to have a core audience that'll follow you. But the reason why I love the affiliate badge idea is just that there is an amount of work going into being an affiliate too. You have put in the want to be there. It's not just the random stream every once or twice a week or such. No, we're talking you've worked for it. But I have somebody in chat here saying that the idea of subscriber badges could also be transferred to that. Like, how long have you been streaming? So I think with a combination of what you said, whereas you put in has streamed X amount within the 7 days or something like that, it could also add to has been a partner for so and so long, or has been an affiliate for so and so long, because it would show first and foremost how long you've been there, but also how much you've actually put in through that amount of time. Like, these are just arbitrary ideas from us, though. Like, this is not based on numbers or anything. So, but I really do feel that the idea of of being able to show that you have been an active streamer and so on could open up the conversation in a natural way.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying about having the check mark when you go into a different stream, I know TC has taken away because somebody started really picking on him in a different stream when he came in and just said hello. And I'm like, they are not going to last long on Twitch in that case, because if you're going to make fun of other streamers and their achievements, yeah, you're not gonna last long on this platform.
Yeah,
I am so proud of my check mark. I will not remove it, and I will actively have it on when I go into a chat. If people get a bit like, "Oh, there's a partner here," I'm like, no, stop. I am here to watch this channel. Feel free to ask me questions, but it's not about me here. This is about this channel. I am here to enjoy this person's content and how they do things.
Mm-hmm. I've had, yeah, go ahead.
So I've had those interactions, and people have been like, okay, oh, cool, and I don't mind the initial one, because sometimes, yeah, it's cool to have a partner there, you know? But we're still just people, you know? I'm just a guy. You're just a guy, yeah? We're just there to hang out and have fun. And I don't know. It's such a weird world sometimes. It is.
Yeah, I think that probably part of it is that streaming has really taken off. And with the pandemic and all that other situation, that it's become more viable now, or what does it mean viable? Or let's say more accessible, right? Technology has become more accessible.
Yeah.
And there's so many, self-help guides and whatever stuff out there. Certainly, helped me a lot. So, and I think, Silver made a brief point there about, the check mark could be seen as self-promoting. And I wanted to balance it by saying I've had both experiences. I've also had the experience and the for me, more important realization. Perhaps sometimes it's good to go to an affiliate or even a starting up streamer and be there. And then if you're genuinely there to enjoy and engage with their community and with their content and what they're doing, then actually you're giving them maybe a little bit of a boost in confidence or whatever, to say that, they're able to entertain someone who's put that work in, and I don't mean this in a sort of a made it kind of way, but it does give you that feeling of like, okay, there's somebody that's gone through the ups and downs and the startup phase and
Mm-hmm.
probably made some changes, no doubt, and made some improvements over time or whatnot. And so I've had that feeling also of like I genuinely am supporting somebody because I'm here to engage on what they're doing and enjoy their content with them. I think, again, it's just probably some element of like mysticism around what does the check mark really mean, and the fact that the affiliate level isn't really all that well promoted and recognized. Yeah, it feels more of a, in hindsight for me, more of an individual achievement for me, enabling me to do things with the community, rather than it was like it didn't feel as much of a, and maybe this is also because it's not that difficult to get the affiliate stage if you put just that bit of time and energy in. And if you're not getting the numbers you need at that stage, it's because you need to rethink. You might think you've got the most brilliant presentation and content ever,
Mm-hmm.
but those low level numbers, so to speak, don't lie to you. In that, it's quite a good stepping stone, because it will tell you, okay, I've got enough to get the basics and to get this going and get the ball rolling, and then the partner is a lot more of a challenge, generally speaking. Yeah. So, and there's always exceptions to all of these things, but as a general thing, I think that applies. I think, like one thing I was thinking of while we were talking is you can obviously click in people's names during the chat. You don't always have time to do that. You can click, and you can see when is their Twitch birthday. So when did they join Twitch, at least with that account? How long have they been following? When did they first sort of join your troop? Although I clicked on one before that I know has been around quite a long time, and it said that something must have gone wrong with those numbers, because it said that they oh no, I think I know what it was. I think it was one of those algorithms that unfollow follow thing. So sometimes that can lie to you. And then obviously you can see information about subbing and that. Maybe they could add another line in there somewhere. Again, maybe this would be where the TV symbol thing could be hidden, that anybody could click on their name if somebody in chat, and you could see the TV symbol and without having to go to their page and see, 15 streams in the last 30 days or something, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you'd have like a TV symbol or whatever, or Twitch symbol, and then like a number like a 15 or something, and everybody would know eventually, okay, that means they've streamed 15 times in the last 30 days. I think that could work, because then it's an interaction thing, so that the other users in chat are choosing to click on that and find out more about that person because they're intrigued by what they're saying. And that way maybe the whole self-promotion thing would never have to happen anymore, because like White Wolf just said, a mouse over where it goes to a TV symbol or something, so you could just mouse over the name and it would show you as the broadcaster and as the mod team, but it could then show anybody in chat. And if they're then curious, that person just made a really brilliant joke or a very sort of intellectually engaging statement or something like, I'm curious about this person, so I'll click on their name and then follow the link if I want to, yeah? At the moment, as I understand it, you have to go through to their page and see, and I do this sometimes because you see a name and you think, that sounds like it could be somebody that does content, or they're saying something that sounds like they do content or whatever. So you click through and then you see, actually they've never posted a video ever. Or they've deleted them all because of DMCA strikes, or you can see they haven't even set their page up or whatever. I like that idea, the mouse over badge that White Wolf threw in, or clicking on the person's name and being able to just see that information. And that way, sure, there's a mini bit of advertising there, but if it's a question of that versus somebody either spouting in chat about obviously more or less what they've done or what they're doing, and I want to be careful because this is probably going to like catch the one or the other, but I'm always very wary when I do see the TTV.
Yeah,
especially when I see it in game. When I see it in WoWs and it's like so and so, Sir Banana Face TTV. I'm like, really? So that would be a small tip I would, if you ever want my followage. And this doesn't rule it out. We know a couple of people that have got TV in the name. We had a raid actually today from Twitch Dad TV. Really good dude, really good RP. Fun with him in Atlas Darkside some time back, and just a good spirit. And he's doing his thing, and he does, obviously does stream, and we shout out because we know him enough. So it's kind of cool. So there's, again, it's not a hard and fast rule, but it's always the little alarm bells ring a little bit when I see best streamer TTV has just entered your chat. Hi. Hello, best streamer TTV. Ever streamed?
Do you stream perhaps? Yeah, no, you're mentioning something there. Like that is one way of self-promoting, but you're not doing it at somebody else's channel though. So yeah. Like, for instance, on TikTok, I have to have the TTV thing because I couldn't get Just Tigers Den. So that is also something to keep in mind, that some places people have a nickname that they've used for a long time, and then, it's tied to a personality, ties to something, but then they just, let's throw on TTV or something there. That could be something. That could be something. But I mean, when it comes to any sort of etiquette, really, doesn't it all just boil down to don't be a dick?
I think so. I mean, it does pretty much all boil down to that. It's either that, or if everyone can just think, give it 30 seconds, or maybe 60 seconds, and just think on a sort of empathic level, if I want to engage and have fun, you know, and find out about this place that I've just landed in, I have no idea what's going on. Never met them before, don't even know the game they play, whatever. But if people went into it with a, let's just engage, let's just see. Maybe it's fun. Maybe in 5 minutes we're out of here. I think that would, you know, that's kind of the answer. And then you've got the reality of humanoid life where switching the brain on for 30 to 60 seconds before chatting, speaking from my own experience as well, is not always something that happens, right? So, but I think it's the two-way street maybe of the streamer being genuine about what they're doing,
yeah,
and being themselves, even if it's their online sort of presence or whatever, and then the viewers, the audience being themselves and not hiding behind avatars or throwing flippant comments in because, well, who cares what you know, briny sea witch TTV says.
Out of all the names.
Honestly, my brain was really struggling to not come up with something that has sausages in it. So I'm quite happy with
That's what she said.
Yeah. Anyway, how are we doing for speaking of briny sea witch TTV? That would be a good segue.
Sky Cthulhu is saying, BRB, renaming my World of Warships account.
Well played, Sky. Sorry.
But yes, we do have a wonderful segue, and we have, as far as I noted, we started this at 13:22-ish.
I was going to say, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah. And
I'm amazed how quickly it's gone.
I think we can easily move on to the last segment of the stream. Or do we want to talk to chat first, or like what do you think?
Could do. Yeah, open the floor for a couple of questions. We just gotta yeah, let's just do it. We're winging it, we're learning as we're going, so
yeah, I mean,
I've got Silver just said, I'm going to go and look now and see if I can find a stream with that name.
I mean, like it's like, do we have any comments from chat here? And to preface for those,
just to give some guidance, sorry, are we looking for more about this format and what we're doing, or or is it just completely open floor? Because there's a couple of WoW's questions coming in.
Like, I mean, I don't mind any sort of World of Warships questions or so on. That reminds me, I forgot to set up the channel points thing, redemption stuff that I was gonna do for this. But yeah, like any questions, like keep it pertinent to the podcast, please. Feedback we would like in a different way. We would love that in our respective Discord, so we can work that through on the next editorial meeting. Yeah, I love saying that. It's so cool.
It is good. It is good. You mean at the next editorial meeting?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, when we sit down and talk with the producers there as well in the room.
So, yeah, do we have any questions regarding what we've talked about or comments?
I'm seeing a lot of comments which are very favorable in terms of enjoying what we're doing, and especially White Wolf mentions the variety. It's refreshing to see the variety of topics as well. Behind the scenes editorial meeting for YouTube. like a The Office kind of fly on the wall documentary.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're going for that. Maybe for the Patreon version. I don't know. No, we don't really have a Patreon version, just so that's said.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should. Let's take it up on the next editorial meeting.
Laniver asks, what could Twitch do to help further community building? Being a good streamer is one thing, but how to manage the growth of the channel following?
Good question. Very good question.
That could be its own topic for...
Yeah, like, this is not something that I'm going to be able to just answer off the top of my head. But I know there's a lot of statistics pages out there that Twitch probably could implement a whole lot better, and it would make it easier to kind of know where is your core audience coming from, what do you do well, like at what times do you do well, what other channels do you have a similar audience, so that you know that, okay, if I stream at these times, then that's probably not the best, and so I should put it at a different time than then, and you know. So that's the sort of info.
Yeah, that's an interesting streamer etiquette point of view. I've had those myself where I don't want to overlap, or you know, like I had that feeling, and I think this is some of it was the naivety, the lack of experience in the space of like, well, if I stream then, I don't want to, like, you know, screw over my buddy or something like that. And then you kind of realize that, you know, especially if you're somebody you know or whatever, and you have like a vibe with, then it's irrelevant. You know, we're just there to kind of do our things, and we support each other. But that was an interesting one, and I had it both sides of, like, sometimes streams would appear parallel to mine. I'm like, oh god, I'm dead in the water now.
Yeah.
And so you know, these are genuine concerns because just from a lack of experience and understanding. But ultimately you've just got to do what you're going to do, and you're not there to. Firstly, there's a lot of fish in the sea, so to speak. You know, there's lots of people there who want to come and support. Secondly, people often lurk and hop between multi-channels and stuff, and you know that that's true because you see the occasional, like, oops, wrong chat kind of things. They always make me chuckle. But I also, because I'm genuinely happy when I see that people are finding the spaces that they're happy in, or happiest, or you know, whatever, feeling most comfortable, or just in the mood for. You know, sometimes you want this way of looking at a thing, and sometimes another way, as she said. Train of thought is a good thing. There was a question from Kings. So, sorry, the point was just it's another one of those etiquette things. Ultimately, you can't worry about it too much. I think the thing to do is it's easier once you get to know people and you kind of understand them a little bit. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to suddenly be like great friends with everybody. It's amazing when that happens. I've, you know, got some of my best friends in my life just through this space. So I'm very privileged and lucky to be able to hang out with yourself and Grumpy and a number of others on a fairly regular basis, some more than others, and it's mind-blowing in some ways.
Quick comment just from Blutinum. He says, not to toot my own horn here, but having a good moderator team when your channel suddenly grows from 50 to 75 average viewers to 250 is very valuable. Yes, and hell yes. Yeah. Having a good moderator team and having a good conversation with your moderators, so that you know that you have the same idea and that they follow your philosophy, then that is going to help big time, because that'll allow the moderators to kind of pick up where you as a streamer might not be able to always say hello to everybody because you're in the middle of something really intense. Then the moderator can kind of pop up and go, hello, welcome in, please find your seats, or whatnot. So yeah,
that is it is so important, and it's also something that was very scary, was because you know, we care and we want it to go smoothly, not just from our own point of view, but for the moderators and the community in general. But getting that right tone and that vibe and understanding, you know, I also like that there's you know, the diversity in there as well, that different attitudes sometimes, but understanding that core vibe and the positivity that we want to give out. So I've been very blessed in that regards, and it's also really important for me to understand that they're having fun and enjoying the process, because it's not like it's a paid job or something. And the shine of, like, the oh, you got the sword, that kind of wears off sometimes quite quickly when people are overwhelmed with whatever's going on at a certain time, whatever. But I think it's worked very well, and I've enjoyed very much, like, the moderators in the broader sort of what I always call the extended good vibes community that we have, that crosses over to, you know, many continents as well as streams, which is fantastic. Yeah, but having that support, I think it's important to emphasize how much that means to us, because we say it and sometimes it sounds like a yeah, you'd say that, but it genuinely means a lot to us, because it gives us that free capacity to be able to, you know, have confidence that things are moving forward and that we can't focus on everything all at once, or, you know, I can barely do one thing good at a time. So yeah, this is been incredibly insightful or eye-opening, and a really, really positive part of the experience, to know that you can find these people that will trust and that will give of their time and their energy, and engage. And we've also been pretty lucky that we haven't had too many sort of troublemakers in the sense of the audience. So that's been pretty good. Yeah. King asked a question about the business model. So what business model would you like to see for streamers? What would you like to see happen from Twitch and all the streamers themselves? I think that's a pretty deep one. We might have to cover that as a separate subject one day, but
that is a very big subject.
Yeah. The starting point is well, I'll talk about my experience. You're very much left on your own. It's kind of like do or die. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not criticizing or complaining about it, but it's very much like, this is kind of how it works. And then go and do your own research, you know, look into it a bit. The classics like, how much does a streamer earn, and all that, you know.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, it's for me, like, hobby, spare time thing that I never really intended or expected that it would become a thing that is, I can call it, it's not semi-professional, quarter professional, whatever the lesser term of that is for me, or whatever. But that it is, I can see and I envisage a path towards making this, you know, a profession, as it were. I prefer to call it a passion, because, you know, or a calling almost, or something. I'm not really a super spiritual or not a classical religious sense kind of person, but I definitely feel strongly and emotionally that that's what this is for me, that this is like the thing that I kind of want to do. And the fact that can be made economically viable if you're sensible and you manage things, but it's not easy, and people shouldn't be under the illusion that it's like, oh, you're just online and you see some bits coming in and you're like, oh, that's not the same as like a steady income or
No, I have very strong feelings about this and thoughts about this, but this is not necessarily about the business model of the streamer itself. This is more about how Twitch handles it.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of an iffy subject, because it touches on the prices of things, the taxation of things. The one thing I will say just right now is, if you truly do want to monetarily support a streamer, the best way of doing that is not through subs, is not through bits, it's through a direct donation. Because that way the streamer gets the full amount of that, instead of half of it going to Twitch. And I do realize that Twitch needs their own to keep on going with the servers and everything, but fact of the matter is, when you're an affiliate, 50% goes to the streamer and 50% goes to the to Twitch, no matter what. And we're talking even on tier 1, 2, and 3. But when you're a partner, if you're a big enough partner, you'll have the ability of renegotiating. But already from just hitting partner, you'll have more income from tier 2 and even bigger percentage of tier 3. And let's not even start talking about the prices of buying bits. 100 bits is roughly $1. But what does it cost to buy 100 bits? almost $2. So again, there's this 50-50 split. So it's a really hard subject to broach. It's a really hard subject to broach because it is a wonderful free platform that is given to the streamer that needs to be upheld. But on the other hand, it is the streamer doing most of the work. So it is too big to sit down and talk about right now without any sort of
agreed.
Further thought.
But that's good. You've made some really good points, and I think that gives people a chance to think on some different aspects of it. Yeah, I agree. I think I sort of like the sink or swim most days, and then there's days where you're like down or it's not quite working, and you're like, could somebody throw me a a life buoy or something? But but I think some things could be a bit more transparent, or maybe this leads actually quite nicely into a question Painzo asked, which is, as a recent addition to the partner program, do you feel the progression from affiliate to partner needs more granularity instead of being a hard and fast you are or you aren't? I mean, I think this links both to that sort of business aspect of it, but also to the what we talked about earlier about recognition and Twitch etiquette and so forth. I think that for me personally, I feel like there could be some more stages, but that also brings more complexity, maybe, and both for them to manage and for you as a streamer working hard to achieve. It feels a little bit too blunt. I agree in that, you know, kind of startup streamer affiliate, which is relatively attainable, I think. You put the time in. And then partner, which feels like a challenge in most cases. So, which I think is not a bad thing either. If I'd have got it first time out, it might have been a bit like, cool, move on. And I think the going through that extra kind of 3/4 year or whatever it was that, or I guess best part of a year where it didn't work out and I had to work and change things up, as well as the feedback that I got from the second application, it helped solidify more that it is, you know, in a way more meaningful that I had to work and put those changes in place for it. Unfortunately, it means for the internet that you have to look at my mug as well. So bad luck on that one. Thanks, Twitch. But I think in terms of the granularity, I don't mind the you are or you aren't, but I agree that there could be maybe some stages to it. And that might also help people that have made affiliate. Again, I'm trying to phrase it carefully, but relatively easy. I'm not saying it's super easy. I'm just saying it's attainable. I think that then the gap between the next two, because there's only one more step to go through, and then super invisible partner thing later on. I think that could be broken into a couple of stages. It could even be tied to, like, I don't want to trigger anybody, but it could be like, it takes a year. You have to have a year gap between this stage and the next stage. Just throwing a comment in there, not a fully fleshed out thought, but they could do it a little bit like that. And then, but I suppose they want to avoid any kind of too over competitiveness in it. But the reality is, it is sink or swim. You're going to do it, or you have the privilege to be able to do it purely as a hobby or whatever. Yeah.
But I think we're gonna draw a line under questions and comments from chat right now. And then we have this segment that you brought up in the editorial meeting that I really love the idea of, and I'm gonna give you the floor here to just present it yourself.
All right. So we got a little section that we need to flesh these things out, but it sort of struck a chord with me, and I thought emotionally it made sense. So I wanted to try and wrap things up. I think we're having a good, healthy conversation. Hopefully people are smiling and enjoying. But we got a section called Something That'll Make You Smile. And this time round...
No, it's not. It's called Something to Smile About. You insisted that we call it Something to Smile About.
I haven't got the list in front of me. I improvised. Anyway, it's called Smiley Thingy. So welcome to our end section called Smiley Thingy. And in this case, I want to lead off by just, again, it's going to be a Twitch thing. and it's about a streamer, but it was something that really sort of struck a chord with me, and about this space and about how in this modern or this current era, we can have this safety, if you will, and this positivity and this ability to express ourselves and enjoy kind of, you know, living and existing together, even if it's in this virtual way a lot of the time. And it was actually via Natalie Holmes' music stream. People that know me and hang around know that I'm a big fan of what Natalie does, and the Tangerine Club and various other music streamers. They've been really enjoyable. And as it often is, you get taken somewhere on a raid and you experience something new and different. And this time around, about probably just under 2 weeks ago, we went on a raid, and we found a music streamer called Ginty Shade Music. So the name at first is like, that sounds a bit Ginty Shade Music, sounds unusual or whatever. But we hung out there, and it's a young French woman who is mostly performing covers, but in a very kind of charming and engaging style, with humor coming through, a genuine caring and kind of a passion for what she's doing, but also for engaging with the audience. Relatively new to streaming, probably around last September, October, or something like that. But through the affiliate and anyway, doing quite well. But I was enjoying that space. It was very chill and you know, putting the simple smile on the face, as it were. Just like, this is nice to have on background, listen to music, enjoy the humor. There were things like she was doing a I think it was like a subathon kind of thing or whatever, but just, you know, again, and that, first of all, it's like a little bit alarm bells. Like, I'm not a big fan of, even though I understand it, it feels odd to me. Like, do it for some other cause, or anyway, I digress. But through the course of the stream, eventually it became a bit clearer. And part of the backstory to the whole thing was that she has a real life problem with an abusive father. And so why I'm trying to bring a positive story here, but she has a challenge that she has to regularly move to try to keep some anonymity about her location and where she's living and this kind of thing, because amongst other things, just the psychology of that, of being kind of terrified that somebody, especially, you know, your father figure, is gonna you know, knock on the door or whatever. And so for me, the big sort of smile and the positivity was just, again, another example of seeing this space being somewhere where somebody can be creative, can engage with people, can create and this way of, you know, this little, whatever the magic is, the je ne sais quoi, if you will, yeah, since it's a and being able to express and really kind of, I was very impressed as her ability to do, well, just to engage with her audience, and show humor and all of this character and the strength of character with all this going on in the background, you know, and that just really put a huge smile on my face, and I was so happy that somebody can express themselves and bring joy. Like, I really enjoyed the experience and listening, and even though it's covering music, you know, you're not, when you're moving around like every month or something and fearful, you're not really in a position where you're like going to a music studio and putting down tracks and things, right? So but this whole experience of being able to share that with people and then give some support as well, because it wasn't like a bleeding heart thing, right? It was very, this wasn't like, oh, this is my life story, sob story kind of thing from the beginning. That was like completely in the background, wasn't even obvious. And it became only obvious really late on, when somebody that they knew was there, and they mentioned about it. And it's like, oh, by the way, guys, I've got to move home on Monday because of this going on in my life, so I won't stream for a couple of days, so please have patience. You know, it was that kind of
Okay.
story. And I just thought that was really, really touching. So that put a smile on my face. And the other I'll let you have a go. And then I've got a tiny one just to wrap up with.
Well, mine isn't all that big, but it is truly something that put a smile on my face. And this is outside the Twitch platform and everything. I've started using TikTok a whole lot because it's a place to promote yourself. It's a place to interact with others, and it's a big platform these days. And for some strange reason, I get a lot of I've started getting a lot of dogs and dog content. Like we're talking everything from police dogs being really good at their job. Like you see their handler throw a cap or something up, and then in the next frame it goes whoosh, and the cap's gone. And like, what the hell was that? Oh, that was a German Shepherd. Right. Okay. That just came flying past and picked it up instantly. But one thing that really made me smile the other day was just this very sweet account where there's this dog called Copper. It's a female dog, and they've made this huge mat for her with buttons on them, which has different words imprinted on it, so that when she touches it, it names that. And in one of the videos I saw where Copper walked up to the mat and was like, pushed a button that said Savannah, and then next where, and then the person filming could then go, oh, Savannah's up in her room together with her friend. She'll be down soon. And the dog goes, Savannah scratches. Like, oh, okay, you want scratches? Yes, the dog replied, and then the owner goes over and gives her scratches, and then the dog is like really happy, and it just made me smile. And I watched through so many of these little videos, and it made me smile because it shows that dogs are so much smarter than we've previously given them account for. Like, don't get me wrong, we've always said that dogs are smart, but the fact that they understand what they're saying through these, they can communicate, and they can actively learn words like that, it is just, yeah. If you have a dog, go give them a hug. If you know somebody that's a bit down, send them a picture of a smiling doggo, and it's all gonna be good, because that honestly made me smile. I was just sitting there like an idiot with a grin on my face. Yeah, it was so good.
That's awesome. I like that. But that's what I mean. This is what this section's kind of intended to be, is anything, just something random that came up in between the podcasts that brought a genuine smile, where it just happens and you're like, oh my God, that's good. Not so much the kind of, I mean, it could be just something silly, whatever, but like more that kind of heartwarming. Yeah. So there you go. And I have to make a note of what it's actually called, so that I call it the right thing next time. A funny smiley doobly doo bit.
Hey, it's your segment even. That's the worst part.
Yeah, I'll break it if I want to, damn.
But all right. Did you have one last thing, or?
Yeah, it's just a really tiny thing, and then we can wrap. You know what? I don't think I even have it. I don't think I have it prepared. I'll save it for next time.
Fair enough.
I don't want to hold us up.
Fair enough. Well, with that being said, with that being done, for me, I want to say thank you to everybody for listening in, for downloading this podcast. If you want to give us feedback, feel free to hit us up in the correct channels. Be that on Twitter, Discord, email, Facebook, or wherever it is. You know where to find us. Who knows when we'll have the next episode, but we are trying to move into a place where we have it more structured, so that we know and we can actually have a schedule on it. And I think we have actually scheduled our editorial meetings for Mondays.
I think so.
Yeah.
Until next Monday, you call me and like, are we having the editorial meeting? And I'm like, I'm just streaming in a minute. Just give me. No, I think we have the flexibility there.
Yeah, we do.
Think the idea was to do that a bit earlier. Yeah.
So, without further ado, thank you once again, everybody, for listening in at home, and thank you to Mr. Grubbles for being here. Why am I a duck all of a sudden? What's going on?
You were meant to be a duck.
That's
That made me smile.
Okay, put that over your own face. I'll like just
right.
so that the people at home through my. There you go. There you go.
Goodbye, everyone.